Today we're going to have a lesson on 6/4 chords. 6/4 is considered the most unstable inversion of a triad. Root position is the most stable. The phrase typically ends on a root position triad, or occasionally on a first inversion triad, but never on a 6/4 second inversion. Unstable meaning it has to resolve, it has to move somewhere else. Because of their instability, 6/4 chords have to be handled with care. They only occur in specific situations. There are specific 6/4 chord types, which we're going to learn about now. Neighboring or pedal 6/4, here's a repeated C in the bass line. I have a line with a neighbor tone up above it. Upper neighbor goes up and goes back down again. Say I stack another line on top of that. Now I have a chord progression. If I want to make this a 4-voice progression, I can just double the bass line like this. Neighboring or pedal 6/4 occurs between repeated harmonies. You can think of it as two simultaneous upper neighbor tones above a pedal tone. Pedal tone, if you don't know, also called a pedal point, is a repeated or sustained bass note. Terminology comes from the organ, played with the organist's feet. Sustained note can be played with the pedals on an organ. You can label this using Roman numerals in the key of C major. This is like 1 to 4, 6, 4 to 1. You can also notate it this way. This is notating it rather than as a separate harmony, as two neighbor tones above a sustained one harmony. There's more than one accurate way, more than one legitimate way to analyze a passage like this. You can think of this as a harmony in its own right, or two upper neighbor tones above a single harmony. There are two ways of looking at the same thing. So say we want to write a progression in D major consisting of 1 to a 4, 6, 4 to a 1. Someone spell out my 1 chord. Pick a spacing. We're going to have D in the bass.
A.
We need an A. I'll put A in my tenor voice here. What are we missing?
F.
F sharp, remember?
No, F. Oh,
Sharp.
Now, I need to double one of my notes to have a 4-voice chord.
How do you
It's
know
nice
which
to double the
note?
fifths.
Is there a rule about doubling?
Double the
Is there a rule about doubling in root position chords?
Not the not the
There's
third.
rules?
Not the third.
You can double the third, although it's
Bass.
less common.
The bass.
Most often the bass, or sometimes the fifth. So here's a very common spacing for a root position chord. 4, 6, 4, what are the notes of a 4 triad in D major? Root is scale degree 4, remember, which is
G.
G. Spell a triad up in descending thirds.
E.
G, B, D.
D.
So same.
6/4 indicates the highest inversion, which means D is in the bass. We're going to have a repeated D here.
Right.
What's the simplest way to do this? I can move these voices up by step as though they were upper neighbor tones. A can go to B. F sharp goes to G. What do we double in a 6/4 triad? In 4 parts, the bass is always doubled. I can keep my soprano where it is. And we can go back down again if we go back to 1, like this. So that would sound.
Your soprano is going to be so angry with you for such a boring note.
You can do a lot of them.
There's also a passing 6/4. Imagine you have a root position triad followed by a first inversion version of the same chord. You have a voice exchange between soprano and bass. Remember, voice exchange means two voices swap pitches. You have C and E, and then C and E again, switching places between soprano and bass. Any skip of a third can be filled in with a passing tone. Stepwise motion from one note to another. Now imagine I harmonize that passing tone with its own chord. That's a passing 6/4. You can think of it as like harmonizing a passing tone in the bass. between a root position chord and a first inversion chord. Let's write a progression in minor this time. D minor, we're going to start with a root position 1 triad to a 5-6-4 to a 1-6. What's my bass line going to look like? I'm going to start with root position 1. In fact, we can use the same spacing we used previously, now with the D minor triad. Notes of a 5 chord in D minor.
A, C, key.
Remember, in a minor key, what has to be altered in a 5 chord?
Leading tone.
Leading tone, which is always the third of a 5 chord. C becomes C sharp.
C sharp.
And we're going to go back to DFA on the 1-6. What's going to be in the bass here?
Third.
Yes, F. 6-4 means highest note is in the bass. We have ascending stepwise motion in our bass line. Let's fill in our 5-6-4 chord. Again, what gets doubled here?
Bass.
Bass gets doubled. I always tell students, in writing a progression using 1 and 5, you can usually retain a common tone and or move all other voices by step. What's the common tone between 1 and 5?
A.
A, always scale degree 5. We keep our A here. That's the common tone.
E.
Yeah.
Who can move to E by step? Can I do it in my soprano?
Both of them can.
Either can. Oh.
Oh, because then you'll have
What's gonna
parallel.
happen?
Right.
What's wrong with this here?
Oh.
Parallel in bass and
I have parallel octaves between my soprano and
Outer
bass.
voices.
But I can move my alto line
So you have contrary.
by step. I have contrary motion. What am I missing now?
C sharp.
C sharp,
My
right.
soprano can move by step down to C sharp. Leading tone in a soprano voice always resolves up to tonic.
There's a really cool line now between the alto and the bass.
Yeah, the voice
Now,
exchange,
I
right?
have
You
a voice
see
exchange.
Oh my
Yeah.
god.
I have a voice exchange between my alto and bass. This progression sounds like this. 6-4 chord harmonizing that passing tone in the bass between the 2 D minor 1 chords. So what's known as an arpeggiating 6-4, prolonging a single harmony just by changing the inversion. Let's say I have a string of 1 chords with the bass moving. The bass is arpeggiating the notes of the 1 triad. This is a term you should know, arpeggio, the sounds. Notes of a chord in succession rather than simultaneously. It comes from the Italian arpeggiare, meaning to play the harp. The cadential 6-4 is a point of confusion for many students. Cadential 6-4 appears immediately before a dominant 5 or 5-7 harmony at a cadence at the end of a phrase. You have the root of 5, scale degree 5 in the bass, while the upper voices sound the intervals of 6 to 5 and 4 to 3 above the bass. Here's an example from Mozart. Sorry. At the end there we have a predominant 2-6 harmony followed by a cadential 6-4 to 5. You have A, which is the root of a 5 harmony in the bass, and the intervals of 6-4 to 5-3 above it. Cadential 6-4 and 5 are notated together as Roman numeral 5 with figures 6-5 and 4-3. Now you look at the cadential 6-4 by itself, you have A, D, F sharp. This looks like a tonic or 1 chord in 6-4 position, but it is not notated as a tonic 1. The reason for this is it's acting as an embellishment of the dominant harmony. It is always preceded by a predominant, and it connects together the predominant to the dominant. If I took out the cadential 6-4 here, you'd still have a 2 to 5 chord. essentially the same basic progression. The cadential 6/4 is connecting those two chords together by means of voice leading. Anytime you have two numbers separated by a dash in this way, just to review for a moment, you know how suspensions work. You learned about these earlier in this semester. When you have two numbers separated by a horizontal dash, it always indicates you're going from non-chord tones, unless it's an octave above the bass, non-chord tones to chord tones. Here's an example of a 4/3 suspension in a 5/7 to 1 progression. That's 4/3. It means that F, that fourth above the bass, is not part of the one chord, resolving from a dissonance from a non-chord tone to a note that is part of the harmony. It's the same principle with the cadential 6/4. You're going from non-chord tones to chord tones. That 6/4 delays the entrance of the other notes of the 5 harmony. You may recognize cadential 6/4 often happens in a concerto where, prior to a cadenza, orchestra ends on a big cadential 6/4, soloist takes off, the cadenza ends with a 5 or 5/7 before resolving to the final 1 harmony. You could also have a cadential 6/4 resolving to a dominant 7th, in which case, in addition to 6/5 to 4/3, you have 8/7, an octave above the bass to a 7th above the bass. So anytime I see this, now, the reason this is a point of confusion for many students is they see this and they think, oh, it's a 5-chord in 6/4 position. No, it's a 5-chord in root position with an embellishing 6/4 preceding it. So anytime you see 5 with the figures 6/5 to 4/3, or 8/6/5 to 7/4/3, what do? You put the root of your 5-chord in the bass, which in the key of E flat major is B flat. I'm going to put it up here. I'm going to have 8/7, 6/5, and 4/3 above it. Say, for example, in my tenor voice, I have 4th above B flat is E flat. E flat goes to D, that's interval of a 4th to a 3rd. 6 to 5, what's the 6th above B flat? G. And F is a 5th. Now I'm going to have an octave, B flat, put that up here. Is there a problem? What do you notice about this? We have between my soprano voice and my tenor voice.
But they're not.
I have-
Those chords.
What kind of fifths are these? I have an E flat to B flat, that's a perfect 5th. This goes to a D, A flat. What kind of a 5th is that? This is a perfect 5th moving into a diminished 5th. It sounds like this. This is considered acceptable so long as the diminished 5th resolves properly by contrary motion. Remember, the chordal 7th of a 5/7 chord resolves in what direction? B flat, D, F, A flat. A flat is going to resolve down to G. My leading tone is going to resolve up. It's also possible to have, what's the other option besides,
It could go down to the B flat.
what do you call that? The frustrated leading tone. Only at a final cadence. That's to have a full 1 chord instead of having an omitted 5th. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to have it resolve up to E flat. I'm going to have E flat at my bass. What can I do with my alto line? Go up to G,
Or down.
or I can go down to E flat.
Does it matter?
Could I have
Now
it?
you have 3 E flat.
Yes. Now I have a 1 chord with its 5th omitted. There's no B flat. Could I have my alto line jump to B flat here?
No,
Why not?
voice crossing, right?
Yes, you would have voice crossing with the tenor.
Parallels.
What else? You would also have
Parallels.
a 5th here. You would have parallel 5ths between alto and bass. So to avoid that, I can have a final 1 chord with its 5th omitted. This progression sounds. Cadential 6/4 resolving to 5/7, 5/7 then resolving to tonic.